Good afternoon and welcome to another Bird News and Views. I'm your host, Don Burgess, and we have a very short interview today with a gentleman who's quite busy these days, and that's Dr. Mark Guishard from the Bermuda Weather Service. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Donna. Thank you for having me.
So, with the 5:30 update, what are the important things for Bermudians and residents to know?
So there's a few sort of key take-home points that I'd like for people to be aware of. Paulette is a strong tropical storm. It's some 440 nautical miles away to the southeast. It is a threat to Bermuda. We are in a hurricane warning. Bermuda is under a hurricane warning. And that means that hurricane conditions, including damaging winds and surf, are possible in the next 36 hours. Paulette, if I can just share my screen here, this might be a useful thing to do. Bear with me a second here. Okay, what is that? All right, can you see the satellite image?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're looking at here is Tropical Storm Paulette spinning its way towards us in the sort of subtropical Atlantic. There's Bermuda right there, and as you can see, Paulette is not the sort of classic symmetric storm you might expect from a well-defined hurricane. It is indeed not a hurricane as yet, but it is moving out of an environment that is currently suppressing it. So as it gets closer to Bermuda, it's moving into an environment that's more conducive to it strengthening to a hurricane. It's moving into an area of less wind shear and warmer sea surface temperatures. If we look at our satellite imagery locally, we can see some of the high clouds starting to come in from the outskirts and the fringes of Paulette. And if we look on our long-range radar out to 500 kilometers, you can start to see some of those returns being picked up. Again, these are the very far-reaching rain bands and outskirts of Paulette.
Right.
So that's pretty much the story hasn't changed very much. That we're still very much in this mode of having an expectation that Paulette will come very close to the island, if not right over us, in the just after dawn hours, let's say on Monday morning. And each forecast time, there might be an adjustment, an hour here and an hour there. Right now, the current forecast is for a direct approach, a direct hit at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. That means the center of the storm moving over the island on Monday morning at 8 a.m. But that will be adjusted back and forth as each successive forecast evolves.
Is it unusual for it to gear up to a Category 2 so quickly? Because, still a tropical storm.
Well, I wouldn't say it's unusual. Certainly moving into an environment that's got more support, let's say, for development. We see sort of intensification on a rapid basis a lot of the time in the Gulf of Mexico, where you have lots of warm water available. In this part of the Atlantic, we don't get storms typically that are that intense as they get in the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. But we have had our fair share of major storms. This one is not forecast to make major storm intensity, but we have to be prepared for that eventuality.
How long can we expect to experience the winds based on its current speed?
So this is a very key point that I definitely want people to be aware of, that there is a period between Sunday evening, anytime after, say, 5 p.m., all the way through till sort of the middle of the night, Monday night, that we can experience tropical storm force winds. In wintertime, we call these gale force winds. They're 34 knots or greater. In the middle part of the night, so from anytime from sort of 2 a.m., according to the last forecast, and the update at 3 p.m., anytime from 2 a.m. on Monday to sort of 1 p.m. on Monday, we can expect to have hurricane force winds, sustained hurricane force winds over the local area. So this is currently forecast to be a very long, prolonged event in terms of wind speeds. I should also highlight that during that early morning period where we're getting to the closest point of approach, high tide is about at about 6 a.m. So there is the potential that storm surge will be exacerbated by the high tide, getting into the biggest storm surge at the time of high tide. And also it's worth noting that we have a good half a foot worth of additional sea level because of a localized oceanographic feature right now. So both a potentially prolonged wind event and also a storm surge event that we should take note of.
And Gus, I mean, we know what a Category 2 does, but what sort of gusts are we projected to get at this point?
So the worst conditions that we're forecasting at the moment are about at the closest point of approach, anytime around 8 a.m. on Monday, with sustained winds of 85 knots. That's 85 knots, and gusts up to 100 knots at the moment. Now, again, as I mentioned in the press briefing with the Minister for National Security, anytime you get a storm that comes close to Bermuda, any small change in its track will have a large impact on the forecast conditions. And so, if there's a subtle shift to the left or to the right, that will have a large consequence in terms of the worst conditions that we will expect. So the path of what we sort of tend to euphemistically call the path of least regret is to have a forecast track that goes right over the island and forecast those worst conditions and ensure that everyone has those worst conditions in mind when they're making preparations.
All right. I know you're busy, so I'm going to let you go, but we hope to have you back briefly tomorrow and on Monday.
No problem.
All right. And then just again, appreciate it. The essential workers for COVID, you and your staff are essential workers during this time for us. So really
Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll be here 24/7.
Yeah. And for Bird News, we just want to thank you, and we wish everyone to be safe and have a beautiful rest of your day.